On the evening of June 15, 2014, in the shadows of post-revolution Libya, one of the most secretive operations in recent U.S. military history was about to unfold. The objective? Capture Ahmed Abu Khattala, the Libyan militia commander accused of orchestrating the deadly attack on the U.S. diplomatic compound in Benghazi 2 years earlier. The mission would be executed by Delta Force, America's elite counterterrorism unit, working in coordination with the FBI's hostage rescue team. Ahmed Abu Khattala was not hiding in caves or fleeing across borders. In fact, he was surprisingly public, known to give interviews to journalists and move relatively freely around Tripoli. Despite this visibility, planning his capture posed extreme challenges. Libya in 2014 was chaotic. Armed militias controlled entire neighborhoods. The government was weak, and any American presence risked sparking a major confrontation. A direct action mission required precision, secrecy, and the absolute minimum of collateral damage. Delta Force operators, renowned for their ability to operate undetected in hostile territory, began preparing for the mission months in advance. Surveillance of Khattala's movements was carried out by a mix of local assets, drone support, and undercover intelligence operations. His routines, associates, vehicles, and safe houses were meticulously documented. What made this mission even more complex was the legal nature of the objective. Unlike a typical kill-or-capture operation, the directive here was clear: capture Khattala alive and bring him to the United States for trial. That meant Delta Force had to not only neutralize threats, but also safely extract a high-value target across a hostile city and into international waters without alerting other armed factions or triggering a firefight. As the intelligence solidified, the plan was set in motion. A team of Delta Force operators operating under Joint Special Operations Command GSOC was covertly deployed to the Mediterranean. Their staging area was aboard a U.S. Navy warship positioned just off the Libyan coast. A small insertion team would enter Tripoli under the cover of night, rendezvous with surveillance teams, and seize Khattala at a vulnerable moment. The timing of the raid was critical. Khattala was known to travel without heavy security, but unpredictably. The opportunity came when he planned to visit a coastal compound he used as a meeting place. On the night of the operation, Delta Force operators moved silently through the streets in unmarked civilian vehicles, wearing local clothing and speaking only when necessary. They blended in, but they were heavily armed, each carrying suppressed weapons, flashbangs, zip ties, and non-lethal tools necessary for a clean capture. Outside the compound, the team waited until Khattala emerged. When he did, the strike was swift and overwhelming. Within seconds, he was subdued, disarmed, and restrained. A few local guards were present, but offered no serious resistance. The entire takedown was over in moments. No shots were fired. The next phase was the most dangerous exfiltration. The team had to move Khattala across Tripoli and out of the country before word of the raid spread. Delta Force maintained radio silence, using pre-planned emergency contingencies to evade checkpoints and patrols. The convoy reached the coast where a small boat waited to take them to the U.S. naval vessel. Khattala was brought aboard and placed in custody under FBI supervision. From there, he would be transported to the United States, where he would stand trial on multiple terrorism-related charges. The operation, months in the making, had succeeded without a single American casualty. Behind the scenes, it was a textbook example of interagency coordination. Delta Force provided the tactical expertise, speed, and precision. The FBI ensured legal compliance and evidence handling. Intelligence agencies fed the operation with real-time data that made every move possible. For Delta Force, it was another in a long line of missions the public would barely hear about: silent, clinical, and exact. But for the families of those killed in Benghazi, it marked the first moment of accountability. And for America's enemies watching from the shadows, it was a reminder: the United States never forgets. Once Ahmed Abu Khattala was secured aboard a U.S. Navy ship in the Mediterranean, the second, equally delicate phase of the operation began: transferring him safely to the United States for trial. This wasn't just a logistical move, it was a legal, political, and diplomatic tightrope act. Khattala wasn't flown out immediately. Instead, he was held aboard the USS New York for nearly 2 weeks. During that time, specially trained FBI agents began a careful and strategic interrogation. This was done in 2 phases. First came the intelligence gathering stage, where agents questioned Khattala to extract time-sensitive information related to potential threats or networks. Once that phase was complete, a separate, clean team of FBI agents, who had no knowledge of the earlier interrogations, questioned him again to collect admissible evidence that could stand up in a U.S. courtroom. This legal strategy ensured that the case would not be jeopardized by claims of coercion or rights violations. All the while, Khattala's treatment was closely monitored. The U.S. government was highly aware that how they handled him would be scrutinized internationally and could set a precedent. Every effort was made to maintain legal integrity. On board, Delta Force operators remained vigilant, guarding against any possible rescue attempts or complications. While the raid was over, the threat environment was still dynamic. Intelligence analysts continued to monitor chatter from militant groups in Libya, watching for signs of retaliation. After 12 days at sea, the ship finally docked in the United States, and Khattala was handed over to the Justice Department. The FBI transported him to Washington, D.C., where he was arraigned in federal court. From a military standpoint, the job was done, but for the intelligence community and the legal system, the next battle was just beginning, building a rock-solid case that would stand up in court. Delta Force's role in the operation, though finished in the physical sense, continued to reverberate through after-action reports and intelligence debriefs. Their planning, speed, and execution had made it possible to capture a high-value target without a single shot fired. This was a rare feat in the world of special operations, especially when dealing with a hostile environment like Benghazi. Operators involved in the mission returned to Fort Bragg for debriefings, and some later assisted in refining tactics for future missions involving live capture of terror suspects. This raid also influenced broader U.S. counterterrorism strategy. It proved that surgical, intelligence-driven raids led by elite units like Delta Force in cooperation with law enforcement and intelligence agencies could yield results without massive collateral damage. It showed that capturing a suspect alive, though riskier, could provide invaluable intelligence and strengthen the credibility of the U.S. legal process in front of the world. For the public, many of the details remained hidden, but for those in the shadows, in the tight-knit world of Tier 1 special operations, this was a mission that would be studied for years. It demonstrated that America's most elite warriors weren't just trained to kill, they were trained to think, to adapt, and to bring justice under the most difficult conditions. The capture of Ahmed Abu Khattala was not just a victory of force, but of strategy, coordination, and restraint. It was proof that in the fight against terrorism, precision and discipline are just as powerful as firepower. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment so you don't miss out.